What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as J Monster, and thank you for joining me for another replay battle. This one is a very special historical battle. In fact, this is a 4 versus 4 on 1212 AD. What you're about to witness is the Battle of Velbazhd. This is a battle that pitted the Second Bulgarian Empire against the nascent Serbian Empire, and this is going to have consequences in the Balkans. They're going to percolate for another 2 decades until the Ottoman invasion comes, which will wipe out the Bulgarian and the Serbian Empire, bringing them to heel underneath the Ottoman flag. So hope you guys enjoy it. Following some very rapid expansion by the nascent Serbian Empire at the expense of both Bulgarians and the Byzantines, who at the time were beset by problems both internal and external, the Emperor Andronikos III, alongside Michael III of Bulgaria, concluded a decidedly anti-Serbian pact in order to maintain and preserve the status quo balance of power in the Balkans. According to their invasion plans, the Bulgarians were set to attack from the east, while the Byzantines advanced from the south, with the ultimate aim of dissecting the young Serbian state. The two armies planned to meet in what is now northern Macedonia. However, this plan never came to fruition. After a brief campaign in Macedonia, the Byzantines halted their advance and patiently awaited the result of the decisive battle to come between the two empires. Naturally, this suited the Serbian forces under this handsome devil right here, Stefan Duchansky, quite well, whose ultimate objective was to prevent the union of these two forces in league against them. Ultimately, the Serbians were victorious in the decisive battle that followed, an upset to the traditional powers in the Balkans region, which paved the way for Serbian dominance over the next 20 years. Although you could say it was a bit of a short-lived victory, since both the Serbians and the Bulgarians were eventually crushed by the Ottomans when they moved into the area anyway, but I digress. Alright, so before we get into the replay, I'm going to do a quick breakdown of both of the armies. Team Blue is going to be coming first, who are representing the Bulgarians, then we'll pass over to Team Red, and yeah, we'll do the same thing over there. And honestly, I'm really excited to do this part, because there's a ton of really cool historical and linguistic information to be gleaned from these army compositions, so without any further ado, let's get right into it. Over on the Bulgarian right flank, we have an extremely cosmopolitan force, which I assume was sent by the Duchy of Wallachia, just given kind of where a lot of these peoples come from. We've got some Vitayi or Vitaji, which is like a Moldavian cavalry unit. They are heavy cavalry, shock cavalry, tier 3, absolute beasts on the battlefield. All you really got to do is look at those gigantic lances that they're wielding and figure out exactly what they're all about. Just a fun little tidbit is that Vitayi or Vitaji, which I'm probably mispronouncing terribly, I apologize, means the brave ones in Moldavian. Over here we have some Hunnic archers and some Hunnic cavalry, which I assume is here to represent the Tartars, who are a Turkic people that inhabited the Mongolian plateau around 12th century AD. They've got a unit of Crimean slave raiders, which is it's like a medium cavalry unit, but it's tier 3, so it's extra badass. They've got a couple of units of heavy horse archers, a unit of light horse archers, and some Tartar horse archers to round off the whole force. Over here, a little bit of guesswork. Mosneni and Curteni are both villages in modern-day Romania, so obviously they're Wallachians, but they could be the, I'm not really sure I'm saying this correctly, Jasagians or something like that. I don't know, they're descendants of the modern-day Yasi, who live in Hungary. They're a Hungarian-speaking people that live in central Hungary in a place called Yashag. And they're not terribly far from the Slovakian border in the north, to help you situate that just a little bit. So it could be one of those two things. I'm not 100% sure. Over here we have some Kalorasi horse archers. Honestly, I know nothing about these guys, but they're clearly like an eastern kind of horse archer. A ton of skirmish cavalry over here on the Bulgarian right flank. It's a very, very intimidating thing to see. We have Voivoda of Wallachia. Obviously, this is the Wallachian Duke, who is leading his forces personally in the battle. Over here we have 4 units of dismounted Druzhina, and I assume, I'm like 90% sure these guys are supposed to be Ossetians, who, actually they're really interesting. They speak one of the only Iranian languages that is native to the European continent, but they are also second language Russian speaker, which could explain why they're fighting in a Slavic tradition as Druzhina, as these heavy infantry. I've also got a unit of Turkic archers here, presumably more Tartars. We've got some Ruthenian spearmen. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure who these guys are supposed to be representing historically, but the Ruthenians come from what is now modern-day Ukraine. Over here we have a General's Bodyguard unit, which is obviously a very Eastern inspired unit. They've got those kind of dome helmets that are really typical of a lot of the Eastern factions, like Russia, for example. But they also fight with this horse archer tradition, so it's kind of cool. Moving over this way, we have the bulk of the forces. This is like the core army. This is the Bulgarians. We've got some heavy archers, some heavy Bulgarian spearmen, a ton of macemen. As we've seen in some of our previous battles, the macemen will do work on other heavy infantry. I think they're all armor-piercing, not 100% sure on that one, but they seem to do a great job at smashing apart heavy infantry units. In the back here, we have the Byzantines, who, as I said, are not actually present at this battle, but it's a fun little what-if scenario, so they were included nonetheless. We've got an heir's bodyguard, which is the general's bodyguard unit. Some cavallarioi, which I assume just means like cavalry. We've got, these are really cool. So we've got some Varangian guard right here. The Varangians were Scandinavian mercenaries in the beginning, in any case, who the Byzantine empires took into service because they needed a very loyal infantry force. Some of the native Byzantine troops were not exactly all that reliable and were quite susceptible to being bought out and used in political intrigues against the ruling emperors. But anyway, we've got some Anglo-Varangoi here, and this is the like a late period Varangian guard unit. After the Norman conquest of England, a lot of very seasoned warriors didn't really have anywhere to go. They didn't want to stay in their country that was occupied by the Franks, so they left and they found work in the employ of the Byzantine Empire. So these are actually Anglo-Saxons and not Scandinavians who are fighting with that two-handed axe tradition that we've come to expect from the Varangian Guard. Over here we've got some Scutatoi with some extremely long spears, almost like a pike unit. Usually I think the spears are supposed to be maybe about a foot taller than the user, otherwise they become a little bit unwieldy, but these Scutatoi seem to be having no problems with it. They've got these massive spears that are bordering on pikes. We've got some heavy Byzantine archers, some Spatharioi guard. Honestly, I don't know anything about these guys, so I couldn't tell you what the inspiration for their name or for their armor and fighting tradition is. Over here we have some Scutatoi swordsmen, which is just like shielded swordsmen. I assume it comes from the Latin scutum, which just means shield. We've also got some Bolyars, which is the Bulgarian bodyguard, and some Dynatoi and some other some Latin con. Oh yeah, I love these guys. Classic unit from Medieval 2. Oh, they still have the same helmets. That's so cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Bulgarians, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at the Serbian army. The Serbians are also in control of a very cosmopolitan army, and that's mostly due to the presence of a huge number of mercenaries. In fact, half of their force is made up of mercenaries. Here we've got a couple units of Moorish horsemen from the Kingdom of Aragon here to represent the Spanish mercenaries that are present in this battle. These guys are like a medium bow cavalry. They're pretty good, but I don't think they're going to be enough to counter all of the skirmish cavalry that are present on the other side. But anyway, I've got some Lanceros here alongside some Ballesteros, like a crossbow infantry, alongside these Lanceros, who is a late tier medium spear infantry unit. The Spanish also have a ton of these free company footmen. These are like mercenaries within a mercenary army. It's like weird mercenaryception. But anyway, they've also got a couple units of shock cavalry. These are Aragonese nobles, tier 2 shock cavalry, pretty decent in what they do. Not the best, but certainly not the worst by any means. Over here we have some more free company footmen. These are from the German mercenaries that are present in this battle. And I think most of their army, in fact, most of their infantry contingent in any case, is made up of free company footmen. We've also got a large number of Kothreliers, like a light bow infantry, backing up a couple units here of Militia Ambreschütze, which I'm probably not saying correctly either, but anyway. The killing power of their army, however, is located in their heavy cavalry wing. They've got one unit of Emperor Hirschild bodyguard. It's like a tier 1 heavy shock cavalry. But before we move on, let's just look at these guys. Let's just take a moment here and appreciate how freaking beautiful this unit is. But anyway, moving on. We've got, I think, 3 or 4 units of Imperial Raiders, so a ton of heavy cavalry. A lot of it concentrated here on the Serbian left wing. But that does it for the mercenary armies. Let's take a look at the meat and potatoes of the Serbian armies, that being the Serbians themselves. Here we've got some tier 3 light melee cavalry, some Serbian Guisars wielding candy cane spears. I've also got a huge number of Baštiniks. In fact, most of the 2 Serbian armies present in this battle consist of Baštiniks, who are like land-holding freemen who owns a section of land called a Baština, hence the name Baštinik. They've also got some halberdiers here, which are the rest of their army. So it's a pretty devastating kind of 1-2 punch. They've also got a couple units of Baštinik spearmen, who are a tier above the Baštiniks themselves. This is like a heavy spear unit, pretty decent, holding the line here, hanging out with their Serbian crossbowmen to try and protect them from any cavalry charges. Their skirmish line consists of this massive horizon-spanning army of Serbian crossbows, late period, and I think there's some early ones in there as well. Their cavalry contingent consists of the Serbian king. This is obviously the bodyguard unit who is protecting the Serbian king himself. And they've got a ton of Vlatstela cavalry, I think to the tune of about 3 or 4. And Vlatstela is like power holders in Serbian. These are like the Serbian nobles who fight on horseback in heavy armor. But that's pretty well it for the army compositions. Let's go ahead and let's jump right into the battle. We've got some early movements here amongst the Serbians, where they're trying to position themselves in such a way that they're going to have a huge advantage. Look at this. Over here on the Serbian right flank, there's a huge concentration of their Vlatstela. These guys are deadly, and I don't know if these guys have the melee cavalry to hold these guys back. They've definitely got a lot of decent cavalry. They've got some horse archers over here as well to support their main line, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. On either side, we've got some foot archers that are going to be there to support the cavalry engagement. that is a little bit of a risky prospect, I think. Depending on who wins the cavalry fight, there are going to be cavalry that will be running these guys down on either side very shortly. As for the Serbians, I don't know if they have enough cavalry here to effectively fight the shock cavalry and melee cav of the blue team and still protect their archers. So I think this might be a little bit of a mistake on their part. Elsewhere, I'm a little bit worried about the Serbian center as well. They've got a ton of free company footmen here, which is not the worst thing in the world. They are tier 2 and pretty decent in melee, but they are facing down the Bulgarian army. And look at this. This is where all of the macemen are concentrated. We've seen what these macemen can do in close combat, and if the Serbians aren't careful, they're going to find their center routed by this extremely elite, very powerful infantry unit. Over here, though, this is kind of a mixed bag, I think. The Serbians have concentrated a huge number of cavalry. Look at this. So many Imperial Ritter who are now beginning to move forward, looking, I think, to menace this this left flank here for the blue team. But if they're not careful, this could very, very quickly turn into a bit of a massacre. I would even say that this is an overcommitment of cavalry, although, on the other hand, there isn't enough over here, I think, to hold them back. So if they can break this defending left wing with all of that cavalry, they're going to be able to break through and just run absolutely amok in the back lines. But if they aren't able to stop them and to shut them down, then this is going to turn out to be, I think, a very big waste of resources. But let's go ahead and let's speed it up. You can see a couple units here of these Tartar horse archers moving forward alongside the light horse archers, looking to get a piece of these Vlad here alongside the Imperial Ritter, who are now moving forward to try and get a nice, some nice shots at them. We got some Moorish horsemen here moving forward to screen the heavy cavalry as they begin to move towards the blue team's left flank. Over here, we've got some cavalry. Some of the Imperial Ritter have broken off from the main group and are looking to go after the archers, who are looking like they're pretty well undefended, although this could turn into a huge massacre in favor of the blue team. We've got some of the Heir's bodyguard. This is really a bit of a commitment here. This is not actually a bodyguard unit, but it's a fairly elite shock cavalry unit who are now getting charged in the rear, sandwiched between these two heavy cavalry units. But there is reinforcements on the way. You can see some Skudetoi moving up alongside some, appears to be some skirmishers, in fact, some Akratai skirmishers. And the blue team is looking to surround this this portion of the cavalry here, which they're doing very admirably on the other side as well. These Aragonese nobles now taking a huge charge from the Boyars. This is not the general's bodyguard, but it is a very elite unit that can, in fact, serve as a general's bodyguard. Over here, we've got the Latin Con. Oh, I love this. Here, let's slow it down just a little bit here. There's a lot going on. These Latin Con and the Dynatoi in a scrap here against the Aragonese nobles. I think that the Aragonese nobles are going to have a hard time holding them back. You can see more and more cavalry from the red team now pouring into this area. Blue team, I think, throwing one of their cavalry away here. The Cavalario are getting themselves surrounded on two sides by 2 units of Imperial Ritter. Things not looking all that great for the Bulgarians at this point. Let's go ahead and let's speed up just a little bit. You can see more and more cavalry being rushed in here to try and contain this menace. A huge number of Vlatsela, backed up by some Imperial Ritter, taking on these Boyars. Tier 2 cavalry all over the place, looking to smash through this line and get into the back. We've got a number of infantry from the Bulgarians moving in to try and cover any gaps in the line that may present themselves as the cavalry fight begins to progress. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. They do have a fair amount of spears and a decent amount of skirmishers in the area, but there's just so many of this red team cavalry here. Although it looks like we're seeing some routing. This is very surprising. The Aragonese nobles not really able to stand up very well against the Boyars, who have shattered them and broken them like a rotten stick. Elsewhere on the battlefield, taking a look over here at the defending right flank. You can see a skirmish fight beginning to open up here. Looks like the Vlatsela getting themselves a little bit caught out. They were moving forward to try and contest the ground here with the blue team Bulgarians as they move forward, but those Vlatsela getting themselves now targeted by those crossbows who are doing pretty well against them. I've got some Serbian crossbows here trying to cover their retreat, but it seems that the Kurteni foot archers are doing very, very well against these guys. The foot archers, I think, have a much higher rate of fire, so they're going to be able to whittle down these crossbows a lot faster. The biggest advantage that the crossbows have over them is that they are AP, so the shields on the Kurteni foot archers may not count for as much. Over here, this cavalry fight really starting to turn around, though. Blue team getting themselves routed. We've got a very healthy unit of Cavalario here, still 47 that are now running for the hills. We've got more blue team cavalry, some more Boyars moving in to try and contest the ground with these Vlatsela, getting a decent charge there on the Serbian left flank. Over here, it would appear that the Serbian cavalry is in a lot of trouble. They've begun to move some of their infantry in, though, so unless the Serbians are able to move in with some reinforcements, this cavalry is going to find itself surrounded and outnumbered and just outclassed by the sheer number of combined arms that are now arrayed against them. You can see some of these Aragonese nobles, the last unit here, really struggling, really having a hard time standing up to these two units of both Latincon and Dinatoi while being attacked in the rear by the Scutitoi. Over on the skirmish line, it seems that the Serbian army is really getting the worst of it. The Bulgarian skirmishers really outclassing them, it would appear. Those ballesteros just really not able to stand up for very long against these heavy archers with their higher rate of fire. A little bit farther here down the line, we can see, let's slow it down just a little bit, we can see more and more cavalry now pushing in. And it seems like the Bulgarians are kind of on the back foot here. Those Vlatstila have really retaken the initiative, charging forward, and actually it looks like the Bulgarians had to fall back quite a ways to their army, which is a very wise choice because now they are within striking distance of some of the infantry. But definitely, before the infantry is able to get there, I think these Vlatstila are going to do a ton of damage to the Bulgarian cavalry. These Crimean slave raiders, they are tier 3, but fighting against these heavy shot cavalry, the Vlatstila, I think they are going to find themselves outclassed. On the back here, we can see some more reinforcements. There's some mercenary German knights here under the command of the Bulgarians, now looking to get a rear charge, I would assume, on some of these Vlatstila cavalry and maybe turn the cavalry engagement around on this right flank in favor of the Bulgarians. We can see some Bulgarian hook spearmen now moving into combat against these Vlatstila, who are now very much pinned in combat. In Attila, if you try to move your melee cavalry out of melee, they will take probably about half the unit in terms of casualties. So there's really nowhere for these Vlatstila to go now these Bulgarian hook spearmen are moving in. There is a little bit of hope for the Serbians on this end. They've got some halberdiers in amongst the Crimean slave raiders who are just getting absolutely butchered, and there's yet more Vlatstila cavalry to go around. So this push here from the Bulgarian hook spearmen, I think, is going to be fairly decisive for this engagement right here, but they are going to have, I think, a little bit of freedom, especially once this flank over here breaks, to move in some cavalry behind the Bulgarian lines. Over here we can see another unit of Vlatstila looking to move in and support the infantry. The Bashtineks not doing terribly against the Moseni. These guys are just a lighter infantry, a tier 1 infantryman, and looks like they're trying to break through the lines here and precipitate some early routing over on this side. But let's go ahead and let's slow it down because there's a lot going on. Right here we can see a general engagement. Many of the Bashtineks now in combat against the Moseni, who are wavering. We can see some routing over here, and indeed we are about to. This could break the Bulgarian flank here, and we could see a repeat of history if the Bulgarians are not able to reinforce that line quick enough in order to hold it down. Basically all along the lines, it seems like the Serbians are pushing them back, except here with the Ruthenian spearmen putting up an admirable showing against the halberdiers, who are just absolutely outclassed and I think getting shot in the flank now by some of these heavy archers. So some great mixed unit tactics here on the part of the Bulgarians, which is really, I think, going to help them over here closer to their center. Over here, it seems like the Serbian cavalry is being beaten back quite heavily. There's a lot of losses here. You can see all over the fields. The infantry is gonna have a hard time, I think, now that it is so out of position against all these heavy cavalry units. But the Bulgarians are gonna have the time that they need to break some of these more isolated units of Serbian cavalry and move against them and try and turn this engagement around in favor of the Bulgarians. We've got another unit of halberdiers here, some Bulgarian guard. Look at these guys. Looking very deadly with those halberds, looking to take on a unit of Imperial Ritter who doesn't want that engagement at all. They're trying to get themselves away. They don't want to get stuck here between the Bulgarian Guard and these horse archers in the back, who it seems are just wreaking havoc amongst these Moorish horsemen. These guys, I think, are really going to struggle to take these 2 units of Tartars on in like a close combat kind of shootout like this. Now these light horse archers are in behind the Serbian lines. This could be a very big problem. You can see a lot of Serbian troops are now routing off the field. There's a few of the Bulgarian troops that are routing in turn, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And with now the presence of these Tartar horse archers behind their lines, as well as it would appear this flank being shattered, I think the Serbians are going to find themselves in a lot of trouble. Ooh, over here, there's a lot of infantry engaged. Let's slow it down just a little bit so we can enjoy the carnage. I got some halberdiers who have managed to punch through the lines, but there is a unit of Ruthenian spearmen. As we have seen, they can hold their line quite admirably, even against the halberdiers, who are extremely strong in 1212 AD. So these Ruthenian spearmen not going to give them any ground and prevent them from getting into the back here, allowing some of these. I think these guys were routing and now beginning to reform to try and get this infantry situation under control. So those the Ruthenian spearmen over there, I think, are going to be very essential for preventing a complete and utter surround in the Bulgarian center here, which would be the end of the Bulgarian army. We've got some macemen now from Bulgaria moving in to take on these exhausted Bashniks. It would appear that they're actually shaken. I think they've gotten themselves maybe a little bit too far behind enemy lines. There's a lot of forces here arrayed against them, and they are taking some rear fire from those horse archers in the background. That general's bodyguard really doing a great job at cutting down these Bashniks. And the Serbians here, they have cut through the lines very, very quickly and very well, but they are now finding themselves isolated and pinned down with infantry while taking a lot of rear fire. And I think we're going to see these two units here shatter very shortly. There is still a lot of Bashniks to go around. We are seeing some of the spearmen, 93 spearmen now routing off the field. That's very, very surprising. These spearmen over here are having a really hard time, I think, against the dismounted Dragina. The Ossetians really proving themselves a worthy addition to this army, driving back the Serbians. And it looks like we can see a little bit of a generalized rout here almost. Some of these halberdiers now falling back. Looks like they are wavering, and it seems like the battle is really starting to turn around in favor of the Bulgarians. But let's go take a look at what's happening over here on the Bulgarian right flank. It seems that most of the Vlad there's kind of encountering the same kind of problem that the infantry were encountering in the center, where they've managed to push through here, push through the Bulgarian lines, but are getting themselves a little bit isolated. You can see some archers in the back there supporting the cavalry fights, and I think that they were very successful in routing some of these Vlad who really just, they couldn't take that 1-2 punch between the Vitia and those archers in the back as well. Over here we can see some Bashniks routing, really unfortunate, although the Serbians are managing a breakthrough here with a combined force of Vlad and some halberdiers routing a unit of Vitia, but there's enough troops, I think, to tie these guys down for a very long time and perhaps even surround them. We do have some cavalry over here and another engagement that seems to be going kind of okay for the Serbians, but could turn around. But if they scoot this unit of Vitia in around behind these halberdiers and the shock unit, then they could turn this engagement around really, really quickly, and maybe even do it fast enough to take on the two units of Vlad that are in the process of breaking those mercenary German knights. Over here, infantry fight a little bit even. We can see the Mosteni doing a really good job here against the Bashniks, somehow managing to drive them back. But over here, the Mosteni are in a bit of trouble. We can see the Serbian king now moving in to help them break this other portion here of I think these are the Yassi, so the Hungarians, who are having a hard time here against these Bashniks and these two units of Bashniks that have pinned them down. If that line breaks, then we could start to see another surround beginning to take place. Looks like these siege swordsmen from one of the Mongolian factions, so I assume these are the Tartars, are really struggling to take on these Bashniks in close combat. But I want to see how the macemen are doing, because that is going to be the decisive engagement, I think. Right here, these macemen are absolutely cutting apart these Free Company footmen. This is what I was afraid of. Having to take these guys on in close combat just with a Tier 2 infantry unit is really not going to go well for them. These Bashniks still very healthy. These Free Company footmen, however, down to almost about half strength. So we could see a huge breakthrough here, and if they bring those very elite Bulgarian macemen, who are definitely being missed over there in the engagement with the Bashniks, if they bring them around and start to roll up the Serbian lines, this could turn into a bit of a slaughter in favor of the Bulgarians, of all people. Yeah, see, we might see a little bit of a reversal here. History will not repeat itself, I think. Not this time, not in this battle. We got a nice rear charge here coming from the Skutatoy into the back of these Free Company footmen, who are just suffering grievously in the face of these Skutatoy. They're just being pinned down by the Byzantines and now being crushed from the rear by another unit of Skutatoy. Over here, it looks like the Aragonese king has now been shattered by a unit of Dinatoy. I think this is going to be the end of the mercenaries. Over here, we've got some Varangian guard taking on more Free Company footmen, and I just don't see any more cavalry left here from the red team. This is exactly what I was worried about, that overcommitment of cavalry without enough infantry, I think, to follow up any gains that the cavalry made has really cost the Serbians very, very dearly. Over here, we've got some Lanceros holding out against the Latin Con, but honestly, they're so isolated. They're just one small pocket of resistance here in a sea of foes. There's horse archers, there's Varangian guard, and there's cavalry all over the place. I don't think those Lanceros are really going to hang around for too much longer. Over here, these halberdiers have managed to, it would appear, break through the lines, but these Ruthenian spearmen are now coming back around and beginning to surround them, in fact. And these guys are really out of formation. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of damage being done on the part of these halberdiers, who are now, in fact, broken, and they're fleeing from the battlefield. So the Serbian lines now slowly beginning to be rolled up by the Bulgarians. Over here, we can see the dismounted Dragina alongside some siege swordsmen, managing to push back the Bashniks, who are just exhausted at this point. That once huge, proud force of these land-owning freemen now being beaten back by the Ossetians and some Bulgarian heavy spearmen, alongside some of the Tartar swordsmen in close combat. Really unfortunate to see. There's not really a whole lot of Serbians left, I think, to reform and present a united front. We are starting to see some routing here. More and more of these, I think these are the halberdiers we saw earlier, now beginning to flee, but we're going to see another unit who are shaken, and they were beginning to waver. It looks like we've got some Bastion experiments, some tier 3 units now fleeing off the battlefield. This is a really big problem for the Serbian player. I don't know if they can pull it back at this point, because you can just see a huge, vast force arrayed against them over here. There's waves and waves of Bulgarians yet to come at them. Take a quick look at the tactical map here so you can really get an idea of how things are going. A lot of the Serbian infantry is just concentrating in the center here, not able to form a effective formation against the Bulgarians. They have done very well over here on the Bulgarian right flank, managing to rout most of their cavalry. But look at this, we're starting to see those Tartar horse archers now come around the rear. These guys broke through on the left earlier, and they're now going to be a really big problem for these cavalry units. These cavalry units are heavy-duty battering rams, but they are just not able to catch these horse archers rather, and they're going to get, I think, skirmished into oblivion. Now over here we can see some Vlad looking to take on. This is a really nice breakthrough, I think, for the Serbians. I don't know if they're going to be able to capitalize on it, though, with all those archers in the back laying them support. But they are now in amongst some of the Turkic archers, cutting down the Tartar archers very, very quickly. But I don't think it's going to be quick enough. You can see a lot of fire being concentrated in this area, not only from photo archers, but from the horse archers as well. And we've got some more shock cavalry moving up to consolidate the gains here. So these Vlad, I think, are going to fall apart very quickly in the face of that. They are already shaken, so yeah, I don't think we're going to see them for too much longer. Over in the center here, we've got a unit of Vlad charging into the fray against the dismounted Regina alongside the Tartar swordsmen, and they are having some early successes here. We can see them driving back a unit of Macemen, which is a big loss for the Bulgarians. Another unit, I think, of Macemen now being driven back off the field. So a lot of those super heavy units that the Bulgarians were going to have to rely on to break through what remains of the Serbian army are now being destroyed. So we could see a turnaround here. There's not a ton of infantry there in the area, so this cavalry is now going to be free to run rampant all over the skirmish line. And that is indeed what they are doing. These Turkic archers here being run down. There's another unit of them in the back, but I think there's some more heavy cavalry that is going to set their sights on them pretty quickly. Although, no, it doesn't look like it. It looks like this one unit here, this Vlad got themselves really overextended, a little bit too eager, and now they are shattered for their trouble. We will not be seeing anything more from these guys. So the constant fire from these Bulgarian archers have really managed to turn around what could have been a devastating charge that could break the flank over here. I think I'm not even sure what they call this. Is this like the right flank, or what remains of their right flank that's fallen back? I don't know, something like that. I've got some more Turkic archers now being very brave now that the Vlad cavalry is out of the picture, beginning to put some fire on these Bastionniks who just aren't able to go anywhere. They are now broken and going to flee for their lives. Turning their backs to the archers, though, I think is going to get them all shot down very, very quickly. Not really a ton of infantry left for the Serbians. I think this is going to go to the Bulgarians in this case. The Serbians really only have some crossbows and a few of their heavy infantrymen left, but it's just not going to be enough. There's some Bastionnik spears here who I think were trying to reform but are now fleeing, shattered in the face of these Bulgarian warriors. Some Kontatarioi alongside some of the Macemen from the Bulgarians. Still a very healthy unit, 103 rather Macemen, taking on what remains of the Bastionniks, who are now going to break in the face of that in just a matter of seconds. The Serbian army is really in full retreat at this point. All of their crossbows just trying to get away from the Bulgarians, who are pursuing them relentlessly. Bulgarians now bringing their heavy cavalry to bear. These Boyars going to charge into the rear of these poor Serbian crossbowmen. A very healthy unit here of about 83. Looks like they just ran right through them. Yeah, that's a little bit surprising. Ran through them, but it was enough, I think, to shatter what remains of the Serbian army. The Bulgarians are going to come out victorious this day, contrary to what happened historically. Bulgarians are the winners by, it would appear, a fairly significant margin. And honestly, I think we'll get into that in just a second here when we look at some of the casualties. Let's take a look at the Hungarian army, or not the Hungarian army, at the Bulgarian army. That's my bad. Yeah, look at these Macemen just doing absolute work here all the way across the board. I think this was the biggest problem for the Serbian army, is that they paired a tier 2 unit against these Bulgarian Macemen. This is a tier 3 killing machine that just absolutely did work, shattered their center, and yeah, really proved to be a huge nuisance for them. The other problem, I think, for the Serbians in this case was that they overcommitted their cavalry on their right wing. It was a good idea to have that local superiority of cavalry, that crushing superiority, but they didn't have any infantry to follow it up with and really consolidate their gains. So that was the biggest problem for them, I think. But let's go ahead and let's take a look at the pairings. Blood Magpie here, who's the one who sent in the replay. A big thank you to Blood Magpie. Without him, we would not have this glorious battle that you just saw before you. His army did really well. Some of these siege swordsmen getting a lot of kills here. These are just kind of like a generic kind of tier 2-ish unit, so they did really well. His dismounted Regina doing a ton of work as well. His archers getting just so many kills, and a lot of damage on these horse archers as well. Look at this, 128 on that one unit, 152 on the other. The German mercenaries, on the other hand, did okay. I think these are the units that were paired against the macemen, so they kind of got shattered a little bit. Some of them not doing terribly well. Others doing a little bit better. So like 73 on this one, 68 here. That's not too bad at all. Emperor's Heerschild, though, getting 191, more than making up for some of the other cavalry units who really didn't manage to accomplish a whole lot. But yeah, they definitely did their best. But I think that they were a little bit outclassed in terms of the infantry fight, which really was the decisive factor in that engagement. Over here we have more of the Bulgarian macemen taking on, I think this is the Serbians themselves. Fairly even, I think, in terms of kills. A lot of damage here done by the halberdiers. Their Bastianics really didn't do all that well in certain places. This one getting 112, not too bad. 79, still very respectable, but I think they found themselves driven back. Oh no, sorry, those are crossbow units. So their Bastianics really didn't do all that well at all. The crossbows, on the other hand, did obviously very well. 112 kills on that one, and not too bad amongst their cavalry. 187 on the Vladstel, 198 on that one. But really nothing in comparison to what the damage that these macemen did alongside those Bulgarian guard and their heavy archers. The crossbowmen really, without their pavis, they were just not able to stand up to the rapid fire of those heavy archers. Moving on to the Aragonese and this is the Wallachian forces pairing. The Aragonese did a little bit abysmally, I think, these peasants. I don't know why the peasants were here, but they got 0 kills, as you would expect. Their Ballesteros did, they got some kills, but almost nothing. The Aragonese nobles, on the other hand, just got shattered. Their Moorish horsemen, especially this one right here, got 84 kills, not too bad. But overall, the Aragonese kind of got themselves, I think, broken very quickly. The Wallachians doing all right as well. This is definitely one of the, I think, lower amounts of kills in the faction throughout all of the alliances. But still not doing terribly poorly. The Mostani got themselves 80 kills, which is really impressive considering that they were paired up against Tier 2 or Tier 3 infantry. But all things told, it was really the cavalry, I think, that did most of the damage. The cavalry in this one unit of foot archers did most of the damage for the Wallachians. Down here we've got oh my god, the Byzantines just cleaned house. Look at this. They took almost no casualties and did so much damage in return, especially this unit of Dinatoi, who I think took down a lot of cavalry. I think that a lot of those are actually Aragonese nobles kills. So that's very, very impressive on the part of the Byzantines. Over here, though, these Serbians did absolutely devastating damage to the opposing armies. Their Bastianics doing much better than the much smaller Serbian force that we saw earlier under the commands of Captain Crunch, I believe. Just cutting through the enemy lines, doing a great job. His crossbows, they were just really nicely positioned and did a ton of damage to the lighter skirmishers, I think, on the other side. His cavalry not doing as well as could be hoped, but still doing fairly decent, especially this one right here with 113 in it. Serbian King getting a respectable 94 kills. These halberdiers up here, the halberdiers pretty much across the line, except for this one unit, did very, very well. But that's it for the battle. Hope you guys enjoyed. Coming up next, I'm going to have a brand new scenario from Paladin Bob. I believe it's a 4v4. No, actually, it's a 3v3, but it's pretty damn cool, and it's also a historical battle. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the history on this, you will definitely enjoy the battle coming up next. So yeah, that's it for me. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.